Welcome back to a brand new episode of Gen Z BTC. It's me, Satoshi Guapamoto, and today I just wanted to go over the fact I'm going to put the Bitcoin hat on just so that we have a little bit of branding. We are going to talk about how you need to be stacking sats, otherwise it's not going to be good for you. You know, that's just really all there is to it. If you have no Satoshis going into the future, you're going to be in a very tight position because you might end up with only dollars and no one's going to want them for anything. We're moving into a potential environment for hyperinflation, right? So your purchasing power continues to escape you. What we're going to see happen, because liquidity is going up, meaning that the amount of money in the system is going up, which means that the money printing is going up, which means prices go up because there's more money, you get the whole thing. Prices are going to melt upwards very fast. And that's way worse than prices crashing. Because if prices crash to near zero, that's fine because you could just buy it and then they'll go back up in the future, right? Like indexes like the S&P 500 and the QQQ, the NASDAQ, all that stuff, if they go down, you can just buy them because they're cheap, because they're going to go up in the future. Like that's guaranteed to happen. Most people who are super anti-Bitcoin, when I say things like Bitcoin's going up forever or it has like an infinite value proposition, they will roll their eyes or they'll ridicule me for saying that. But if I say the S&P 500 is going up forever, then they'll buy that. They believe that. Why? Because it's gone up for like the last over 100 years. So of course it's going to keep going up for another 100. But that's just not the case. The S&P 500 goes up because the American economy continues to inflate, right? Companies become hyper efficient. Companies find ways to make more capital with less overhead. They can build trillion-dollar businesses while cutting employment, right? But this is all predicated off of the dollar being the global reserve currency of the world. And what we are seeing is the Fed signaling that they have to try to raise rates, have to lower rates and increase liquidity because they might have to bail out the treasury. This is a lot of more, intricate stuff. There's plenty of resources on this, but what is happening here is we have $35 trillion of debt, $1 trillion of interest payments, right? The interest payments are now bigger than the military. The debt itself, what we're paying is more than our GDP, right? The debt to GDP ratio, the debt is higher, right? That's called being insolvent. If you have a credit card payment that is higher than your monthly income, that means you're insolvent. That means you can't pay it. That means that you default. That means that you're broke. That means that they take all your stuff away, right? That's where we're at with the US government. That's not a joke. That's not cope. I'm not lying. Don't believe me. You have to do some research on your own. I'm just telling you what I already know, right? You can go find out for yourself. That's totally fine. You should do that. You shouldn't just trust some random nerd on the internet wearing a Bitcoin hat, okay? But the truth of the matter is, the dollar is in dire straits. And you might say, well, it's so strong against the yen, or it's so strong against these other weak, horrible currencies. They're all dying. I want you to go look up the purchasing power of the dollar. The purchasing power of the dollar is down 99.9% since its inception, okay? The purchasing power of the yen is down big time. The peso, big time. Turkish lira, big time. The rupee, big time. All these currencies are smoked. It's over because they've been running this game of fractional reserve banking and over collateralized lending and all this other crazy stuff. And the derivatives market is literally so unbelievably big. All this stuff is fake. Like, I need you to really understand something. All the money you have is not real. It's genuinely fake. It is not real. There's only one real money ever in history, actually. This is the first real money. This is the first verifiably scarce, sound money that cannot be debased or controlled by anyone. And that is why my new tagline to end all of these videos is going to be stack sats or die trying. Because honestly, that's what you need to be doing. However you can do that, right? Some people say, get rich, die trying, get money or die trying, right? And most of you will go through your life trying to do that. But you need to stack sats or die trying. Because if you don't have Satoshis going into the future, you might not have any equity. Like you might not have any wealth. You might not have any stake in the network, right? The global network that's being developed right now. Not necessarily in front of your eyes, because if you turn on the TV, there's plenty of other stuff going on that they're not going to show you what's happening behind the scenes, right? They're not going to show you what Vanguard's doing. They're not going to show you what BlackRock is doing. They're not going to show you what BNY Mellon is doing. They're not going to show you what these other large custodial banks like Bank of America or JP Morgan Chase are doing, right? They're not going to tell you what Fidelity's doing. They're not going to tell you what Wisdom Tree is doing. You might not even know a lot of these places. And that's because there is a stark difference between what normal people are supposed to pay attention to and what the rich people are supposed to pay attention to, right? Rich people are supposed to be reading, like at most, poor people, they'll look at the cover of Forbes just to see who's on the cover. The rich people are reading through Forbes. They are reading op-eds. They're getting information and update in newsletters about the transitions that are happening, the wealth transfer that's happening, right? So that they can front run it and continue to leech money off of you. And you give it to them willingly. And if you don't give it to them willingly, you either turn a blind eye or you sleepwalk through life. And these things happen to you, right? And eventually you turn into a victim, right? Because in a way you are a victim, but you have the opportunity right now because of the amount of information access that you have given the internet and other great resources and tools, right? I stand on the shoulders of giants in order to portray a message like this. What we are seeing is a fundamental shift in the way people view money and use money. And we're coming towards the end of the game. This is not the first time this has happened. It's happened many times throughout history. Look up currency collapses. Look up what happens when a country's debt becomes higher than their GDP. The interest that they have to pay on the debt becomes bigger than their military. Look up what happens when that happens. It leads to a failed nation state. All these states collapse because they cannot service their debt obligations. Let me just put it a simple way. If the interest payment on your debt is higher than what you're paying the military, there's going to come a point where the people in the military, right, they're going to be like, well, what are we working for? You know what I mean? Like, what are you giving me? You know what I'm saying? And that's how you end up with coups and all this other crazy stuff. Like, if you don't have money to pay the military, right, which is what backs the dollar, by the way. Some people say the dollar is backed by nothing. Some people say it's backed by the full faith and credit of the United States. It's backed by the economy. It's backed by the military for the most part, right? Because people are forced to use dollars abroad. When you can't pay the military, why would they use your dollars? They're going to move on to something else. And the something else is Bitcoin. At the moment, that's just what it is. If it was something else, then I would be talking about something else. We live in the timeline where Bitcoin is the thing that they move to. It's really all there is to it. I have no bias or anything about Bitcoin. Like, I don't care. It just so happens that I'm alive during the time that Bitcoin is the thing that comes after the dollar. That's it. There was a time in the past where, Spain had the global reserve currency of the world. And then it was also England. England had the global reserve currency, or it was Britain or whoever it was. Like, this has happened many times throughout history, many times, right? If you lived during that time of transition, right? Once the United States decided to try to break off from Europe, right? When they were like, you know what, we're going to start our own thing over here. And once you started seeing that gain traction, right, leading into that World War II style era, right? If you had like a vision and you could see what's happening, how the United States was spreading their hegemony, you would realize, oh, you know what? I'm actually going to start transitioning my money out of the pound, right? Or out of whatever the currency was at that time into the dollar. Because the US dollar is going to start to take over and dominate the global financial system. And that's exactly what happened. Like, these things happen. They're transitionary periods. We happen to live in a technological age, and we are watching a technological transition of power. And that's why Bitcoin is up next. So you need to increase your human capital. What does that mean? You need to find a way to provide value to people whether that's making videos that are educational or entertaining or whatever it is. Just get people engaged, right? If that's what your thing is, you need to find a way to provide value to someone. Oh, I'm really great at doing car detailing, right? I'll detail your car, make it look like it's new. You know, I make custom shoes. I'm a reseller or whatever it is. Well, resellers don't necessarily provide much value. They actually steal value. But you know what I mean? Like, be a productive member of society and find a way to provide value to people that they will be willing to pay for your services for or willing to give you Satoshis for, right? Because it's probably going to be a good idea to get a little bit of Bitcoin just in case if it catches on, you know, just in case. With all the countries that are mining and all of the countries that are buying and all of the mining companies worth billions of dollars that are buying and all the banks that are buying and all the banks that are custodying and all the asset managers that are buying and sending out their people to go talk to wealth fund managers and hedge fund managers and pension funds and retirees and all these different avenues that Bitcoin is now flowing into, right? It might make just a little bit of sense to get some. Just a little bit. That's my video for today, man. It's been Gen Z BTC Satoshi Guapamoto. I hope you have enjoyed. I hope you guys like and subscribe. It's free. Do me a favor and drop a comment as well. What are your thoughts on this video? And I'll see you in the next one. Stack sats or die trying.